Greetings, Earthlings. Just kidding. Had to get that one out of my system. Actually, I have no idea if there are even any Earthlings still out there. I mean, pretty sure there's somebody, but within the sound of my voice is an open question. But for that matter, we've been sending these signals out into the universe for what, 100 years now? No idea if or where they land. Perhaps as I speak this now, you're watching reruns of The Honeymooners. Bang, zoom to the moon, Alice. Or, well, there won't be reruns where you are. No, really, we're not all like that, and actually that was intended to be a parody of the whole patriarchal thing. We're not monsters. Sometimes we're worse. So, for what it's worth, I'm broadcasting from north, fairly far north, northern Canada, north, about as far north as you can get without being in the actual Arctic Circle. Anywhere south of here is too hot to survive, anywhere north is just about pure methane gas. So, I managed to burrow into the hillside, load up on Campbell soup and air filtration units, and seal the door. So I'm here now, no going back out. But hey, there's Wi-Fi and a radio tower. Internet's been pretty quiet though these days. I keep hitting refresh. But you know, if you're out there, I'm tim@tmail.com. Inherited that address from somebody who doesn't seem to be using it anymore. Sometimes I send myself emails just to hear the little ding, make sure it all still works. Hey, refresh. Ah, damn Huffington Post. Used to be you'd have something new up every 5 minutes. Now it's ugly Ted Cruz again and again and again for eternity, enough to make you want to claw your eyes out. CNN and USA Today are worse. Gohmert and Inhofe, flat earthers. Mars Colony 1, are you guys out there? Anything? A ding? Hello? I was going to have a Mars Colony 2, 3, 4, and on up. Never quite relocated Cape Canaveral in time. But hey, we did manage to send off Nina Mission 1 before it all fell apart. You guys there? It's supposed to be a Pinta and a Santa Maria, too. Now I get it, you're moving. Too fast for my voice to catch up. Approaching speed of light yet? Passing Pluto? You know, there's nobody here to contradict me, so I hereby declare it a planet again. I don't care what that fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks. Yeah, I know, he was right on all the other shit. So, here I am, in my cozy little hobbit home. No Gandalf heading my way to muck up the door. Nobody to talk to, nobody answering the email ding. First, I thought it was temporary, till a really bad August blew over. Even way up here, we were looking at daytime temps of 120. Fahrenheit, not Celsius. Centigrade. I can't keep that shit straight. No, I'm not Canadian. Wish I was, wouldn't feel so culpable. Nighttime was cooling down to a breezy 105. You know, these temps aren't unheard of. Used to be, every now and again, you'd have a hot spell of a week or two. Sometimes people dying of heat exhaustion. Someplace like Chicago might be 20, 30 people. Actually, that would be a really, really good day. When it all went worldwide, a good day might be 20, 30,000. Even then, we had the idiot libertarians. Didn't it hurt? Survival of the fittest. They pretty much turned out to be not among the fittest. But who knows? Perhaps one of them is in a bunker somewhere. Rand Paul? No, that's right. Rand Paul was in D.C. when that place lit up like a tinderbox. Of course, it's possible some of them are still 20 stories below where they keep all the good Kentucky bourbon. I didn't load up on booze until it was too late. At least I got water, my own pump, my own well. Even got one of those crazy filtration units, turns pee back into water. Saving that for last resort. When the well goes dry or the water gets contaminated. I don't know if the water or the air conditioner will go first. The air is powered by solar, but the main unit is outside, shaded by solar panels. But once that goes, right. August was up to 120. September, 110. October, November, 100-ish. It's not really going back down. So, why stay? Why not let go? Good question. Probably my answer sounds ridiculous, but it's the only one I've got. See, I'm not entirely certain that this whole humanity experiment was ever actually supposed to work. Sure, we managed to develop opposable thumbs, generate cognitive thought, create the wheel and tools and the internet and Shakespeare. Not in that exact order. You know, know how a baby is like universally loved? Even the really ugly ones. There's something about them turns us all into puddles of smiling and cooing and gibberish, which is great. And at the other end of that, those babies are getting hugged and cuddled and fed and changed, and that's great too. Except that that baby assumes that that phase is going to last, because the baby assumes that all that love and cuddling and food is probably something that they deserve. Meanwhile, we all managed to outsmart the animals that wanted to kill us, to bend the land and the elements to do our work for us, to feed us, to light and heat our homes, to cool our cars, to protect us from intruders. We were smart, we kept ourselves safe. But for those of us who stayed safe over time, we mostly assumed that was something that we deserved. The world was cuddling and cooling and feeding us, sometimes providing us with more intimate pleasures. We were good with that? How great that we deserved all that. We must have done something really special to be so really loved. God must really love us to give us all that. Huh. You know, I hope there's a God. That would be nice. Maybe I'm the last one to go, and they're all calling out to me, come join us, come join us. Not hearing that right now. But the human impulse is like that baby impulse. Before long, you're walking and talking, and they stop loving you for who you are, but for what you can do. And that's kind of a shock when you realize that you're the one who's ultimately responsible for your own shit. And as a baby, you're in for some down days, some down years, well into adolescence, before you really get the concept of your own shit, and you learn not to lie in it, but to clean it up. That's both literal and psychological shit. But meanwhile, the evolving species, despite what we've learned from math and science, we're still looking for that parent figure, that God, if you will, to clean it all up. And since we hate the notion of cleaning it all up, we project words into God's mouth. God says, "How arrogant of you, you puny human, to think that you can possibly damage the beautiful planet that I gave you with your pitiful technology. I gave you food, water, sky, coal, gas, oil, fusion, fission, to have dominion over, to use and to enjoy, you ungrateful bastard driving a Prius." And I suppose it's pretty much the same for that baby. You have been cooking me food. You are the lord of the stove, and I am not worthy to touch it. You have dominion over the lawn and the vacuum cleaner, and it is not for me to touch or to improve or to damage. We give away responsibility for management of the thing when the thing is so vast and incomprehensible that we can never collectively wrap our heads around it. And if we ever do somehow manage to wrap our heads around it, it's usually bad news. Much easier to say, I am not meant to understand, but rather to accept this generous bounty. And then, of course, there are always those naysaying infidels who insist that carbon has built up to over 600 parts per million, and certain death will ensue unless we radically change our behavior. It's actually much easier giving up smoking, and sex, and food. Oh, right, the big why. Look, we're about done here. My air hasn't cut off, my water hasn't dried out, but tomorrow may be another question, or day after that, or day after that. When next summer rolls around, I don't expect 120 is going to be the stopping point. It might be 130, 140, 150. I don't expect any equipment left running outdoors is likely to survive the stress. So, 1 year at the most, 1 month, 1 week, 1 day, more likely. In the meantime, here's my question to the great beyond. I'm never going to hear the answer to it. Nobody here on Earth is ever going to hear the answer to it. Mars One, Nina, I know you got your hands full, but generations from now, you might want your descendants to be kicking this one around. Mostly, though, this is for the universe at large. Klingons, Vulcans, Wookiees, Ewoks. I need this to be non-species specific. The question, is this inevitable? Will our technology always outrun our maturity? Yes, individually, we can put our hand on that stove. We have that ability. But most of us reach sufficient cognition before we actually do any damage with that stove. Likewise, fireworks, alcohol, cars, sometimes the tiniest touch on the stove, a fender bender with the car is enough to get us to adjust our behavior. But collectively, as a species, as a group, we default to the age of 9. We cannot come to the collective conclusion that it is time to stop drinking, to douse our fireworks, and to take our foot off of the gas. And so we race, screaming off into the darkness. Is this the answer that awaits us all? Humans, Klingons, cockroach lizard people, droids. Maybe droids could figure this out. Hey, they had 3 laws of robotics. Why didn't we have those programmed into us? In the billions of worlds that are out there, there must be some tiny fraction that can sustain life. Some evolve slowly. They may still be in the amoeba stage. Others faster, perhaps much faster than us. And so, intelligent life, born like a baby into a world of resources, learning to tame the elements. How many times has this happened since the Big Bang? Could we possibly be the first? That sounds a little arrogant to me. But do they all develop opposable thumbs and learn to walk erect, only to blow themselves up and wipe themselves out? We've actually had 5, well, now 6 extinction events that we know of. Vast numbers of species go out of business, the planet hits the reset button and starts over. Turns out, just because we had brains and shit didn't make us immune or exempt. Or, as the late, great Rick Perry famously said, oops. But is this why we don't have any actual ETs? Hey, if you're up there, grow the fuck up, would ya? Sure, you've evolved over a million years, but watch out for that first internal combustion engine. It's gonna bite you in the ass. Yes, God gave us oil. Or God gave us trees that got squeezed down into oil, or God gave us fungus that turned into trees. But if we're gonna turn the responsibility over to God, then, well, then, God did also give us brains and logical thinking and ultimately science. And while it was science to some degree, along with the oil and the engine that got us into this mess, it was also science that showed us the impact that shit was having on air, climate, temperature. We loved and embraced certain aspects of science when it pleased and served us. We reject other aspects that threaten to take our goodies away. Is this a cycle? Will each evolving species come to the same conclusion, or is it possible for maturity to outrun technology?